Welcome to the Specialty Cropcast on Pomes and Stones. Join us for real conversations with farmers, agribusiness owners, and industry experts as we dive into farming, products, and the business of agriculture, all from the people who know it best.
All right, welcome back to episode 14 of the Specialty Cropcast. A
snowy one. Windy.
Blizzard conditions just after Thanksgiving here. If you're watching, to my right as always, backward hat Steve. We have Hoodie Zach in our corner, his corner. And our guest in studio this week, Isaiah Wunsch. Thanks for coming in.
Sure. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for braving the roads.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, very intense
Easy
conditions
peasy.
today. This episode is brought to you by Wilbur-Ellis, delivering trusted crop protection, nutrition, and agronomic support to growers for more than 100 years. Whether you're in the field, the orchard, or somewhere in between, partner with the team that understands your operation. All right, Isaiah, so we talked to farmers, industry experts, agribusiness owners about their operations or whatever they're doing on their farms. So thanks for coming in today. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yep. So I'm the CEO of Wunsch Farms. We're a cherry and apple farm out on the Old Mission Peninsula, just north of Traverse City. We, specialize in fresh sweet cherries. We grow some fresh apples, processing apples, and all the flavors of processing cherries. So brine, processing darks, and a few tarts.
And how many acres are you doing?
Right around 1,000 acres under management right now.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you get started in the fruit growing business here?
I started picking up lugs when I was 9 years old. It's a family farm, so I did that for a couple of years and then decided I wanted to start moving my way into management as soon as possible.
Oh, this isn't as much fun picking
Right.
these up.
Yeah. Yep.
And then obviously as times are difficult here, what keeps you passionate about it? Because, if people do a quick Google search about the cherry industry, it's mostly a lot of negative stuff. So it's always refreshing to talk to people who are positive about it. There's a lot of good people out there who enjoy agriculture, very fulfilling work. And so what keeps you in it? What keeps you passionate and
Yep.
keep going in difficult times?
I think you've got to have a long view to be in the tree fruit business. We plant orchards on a 30, 40-year cycle. And, if you look back, my dad was a cherry grower. My grandfather was a cherry grower. This industry has always had its ups and downs. And if you can figure out how to stick it out and get better through the downward cycles, and make sure that you're in a good position when it starts to cycle back up, you can do pretty well during those up cycles. And then let's see what else keeps me going. We have been moving more and more in the direction of fresh sweet cherries on our farm. Just trying to figure out how to do stuff better, how to do it more efficiently, how to bump up those yields per acre. So basically every year I try to break down a different problem, some issue that I see on our farm, and focus on tackling that. And if I stay focused on something that's kind of medium-sized instead of the issues that our industry has been facing for most of the last decade, it's easier to be enthusiastic and excited about incremental improvement rather than just hoping that the external conditions change.
Right. What are some of the biggest, you mentioned issues there, what are some of the biggest ones that, in your opinion, that are bugging your farm, on the farm?
The things that I've had to really figure out how to manage well, I think, in order for us to be successful are labor. Because we do a lot of fresh, labor is a huge cost driver for us. So people ask me, can you still be successful with all these labor issues? And I think if you figure out how to do the labor thing well, that can be a benefit. We have... So my dad passed away in 2018. Nobody on the farm had worked on figuring out how to take over the spray program at that point. So that was another big learning thing that we had to do, figuring out what worked well with crop protection, nutrition, and dial that program in. So that took us a few years. It was probably the first year that we were really, really solid on our processing apple program because those are our lowest priority crops. So it's taken us 7 years to figure out how to grow the low priority stuff well. But yeah, I think it's labor is a challenge right now. I think the volatility of not just our markets, but the markets globally. We've been in a decade where things have just generally been less predictable than they were 10 years ago. So inputs fluctuate a lot more, weather fluctuates, labor cost and availability fluctuate. The pandemic was an interesting thing to manage through. So I think figuring out how to be resilient and be able to adapt to all of those curveballs that come up is really important.
So you spoke about labor there for a little bit. What do you guys use to source your labor? Are you H2A, or do you guys still able to kind of get some local help?
Yeah, so we have a hybrid approach. So our longer season employees, we've got about a half dozen people who work on the farm year round, and then we've got probably 15 or 20 people who work for a 6-month long season, and those are domestic workers. And then a lot of our harvest crew now is H2A workers. Mm-hmm. And we have those people come in on a subcontract through Arlene Resource Management.
Gotcha.
Okay. Mm-hmm. When do you bring them in?
The first day of harvest.
For cherries?
Yep.
Okay. And then...
Yeah. And then
they leave after that, and you bring them back for apples.
So that's we've used some H2A workers for apples before, but cherries are our biggest draw. So a lot of those long season employees stick around for apples. So our apple crew is mostly domestic.
Okay.
So what's your agronomic approach to decisions with nutrition and crop protection?
I think the most important lesson that I've learned during the 7 years that I've been making a lot of those decisions is to not manage for last year's crop. I think in the tree fruit industry, we generally do a great job of managing whatever the challenges were the year before. So the things that I've had to learn how to do are ask other growers for help. We've got a consultant who helps us out on a weekly basis, and then I actually put together a document that tells me what we sprayed every year going back for the last 10 years during that crop stage, which is helpful. So I'm not looking at just last year's, but I'm looking at a 10-year look back.
Yeah, that especially when the springs are, can be so different. We do that too. Sometimes we'll look at overall what we used last year when we go to make bigger purchases, at the end of the year.
Yep.
Just because that there's certain products you're going to use, right? So you're like, you kind of look back, but every year's a little bit different. You might use a little bit more fungicide on a
rainy year,
and then less on other years. And it seems like in the past 5 or 6 we've had both extremes.
Yep.
Or super heavy moisture in the spring, and then just completely dries out all the way until winter. So, very very interesting how the cycle, like you talked about, it's a 10-year thing. You kind of got to keep your eye on.
Yeah, you can't just look at what happened last year. You've got to look at how you responded in different years and how it worked out.
Yeah, and pest as well. Each different type of weather season or kind of climate that we get to during the growing season brings different issues.
And you're spraying for the next year too, right? I mean, a lot of nutrients you're putting out there. A lot of people think, oh gosh, like I see a deficiency, I'm going to go put this out. And it's like, well, by that time it's way too late.
Right.
Like you need to be putting this on before you
got to be proactive.
Proactive.
I mean, I think both with nutrition and crop protection, being proactive, just not letting those problems or nutrient deficiencies crop up is important. And I guess one of the philosophies that I have that guides me with this business is if it's not worth if the crop isn't worth doing an 80% job on growing, it's probably not worth growing at all. So if we're looking at making poor agronomic decisions on an orchard, we'd rather pull it out and replace it with something that'll work better for that site than to try to
force something that's not doing well.
Yeah, I mean, if you try to do a bad job of managing something, you're just going to get bad outcomes.
Right.
Yep.
We've started to do that too. We used to have orchards. We just had open ground, so we planted the whole thing, and now it's like we have a block from 2004 where it's like there's a couple of short rows at the bottom of the hill. The long rows, you can get like 3 bus trucks worth. There's so much fruit there. And as soon as it gets past this one point, it's nothing. But we still spray it all the same.
Yep.
And every year it doesn't bring any fruit, barely. And you're like, well, what are we doing here? Well, the trees are there. And you just, if you just put your head down and do the same thing and expect different results, that doesn't happen.
No.
Right.
So what do you guys do any crop for, sorry, let me rephrase that. Do you guys do any frost protection in the spring, or do you just kind of let Jesus take the wheel?
We let Jesus take the wheel.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So for most of our sites, we'd kind of looked at it, and we do have some risk of spring freezes, but the percentage of the time where it's an inversion freeze out on Old Mission is pretty low. So we could invest a lot in frost protection and turn the wind machines on. But a lot of times when we get frosts out there, it's just that solid cold air mass moving across the lake. So I think it's when I looked back at where there were inversion events, it's like, okay, we might have a 1 in 5 risk of having some frost damage in the spring on a lot of our sites, but you're only going to have 1 year in 20 where the frost fans really do anything.
Right.
So,
do you think
that's a hard expense to overcome for that? Yeah.
Yep.
To get your
you
money
got to
back.
look at the cost benefit there, and it's kind of questionable.
Yeah.
when we kind of look back at some trending stuff with the weather, it seems like our friends out at Cherry Bay, they always are the first ones, that get hit with it, where they're like, oh, look at all this, a lot of rain or a lot of snow or the hail, over this spring smoked out there first. And then everyone's like, you start hearing about it as it's making its way over. How do you feel like you guys fare on Old Mission, being between the bays? Do you think it kind of goes over you guys, or do you?
We've got different issues. So our farm is really spread out. I think the length of our operation is about 15 miles from north to south. And we've got different levels of risk in different parts of the farm. For the most part, I think we fare pretty well out there, though. We don't have a ton of issues with hail, or haven't had a bunch of issues with hail during my career. And from a frost standpoint, I'd say we're a little bit more it's a little bit lower risk of frost than it is in some
the landscape out there,
yeah.
too. Your farm's in the middle, and it goes down, so you already have great drainage.
Yeah.
Natural drainage.
Yep. Almost every site we farm has pretty good air drainage.
Right.
Yeah.
How did you guys? Did we talk about the apples? How did they come out with the frost or the hail damage?
Oh, our apples?
Yeah, 'cause you guys were right in that belt where it was.
Oh, we
you guys
got hammered twice.
Got the worst.
Yeah, Travis planted his orchard right down the road, so that's what you get. I heard he's gonna put one on Old Mission too. Soon.
I'm kidding. You better start buying up on the neighboring land.
Buy some hail insurance.
No, they honestly looked like crap.
Gotcha.
So everything was processing. Yep.
At least you could still get something for them, right?
Yeah.
That was,
Yeah.
It's tough to get.
I was pretty happy with the disease control for how much damage we had. I'll say that.
That's important.
It is. Yeah.
When did you guys get the hail?
There were two events.
There was two.
It was in June, wasn't it? Roughly the big one.
Yeah.
Late June.
I think it was late June was the big one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because the first one.
We got some of that hail on Old Mission. So I had hail on my deck, but we didn't have any hail in our orchards, which was nice. Yeah.
Wow.
Lucky.
Yeah.
Do you do anything with crop insurance then, or you just?
Yep.
You do?
Yeah, we do both
cover yourself?
multi-peril and whole farm.
Gotcha.
Yep. Yeah, I think crop insurance can be a valuable tool, and we have, because we do fresh, and because we're kind of in a niche market, the whole farm works well for us because it just makes more sense if your operation doesn't have a lot of comparables in the industry.
Yeah. It's also nice too, like you're saying, when you're spread out over that larger area, where if the chances of something hitting the entire farm
Yep.
are a little bit less, so you're kind of protected
Try to be a little
when you're spread out,
diversified,
right?
Yep.
What projects or improvements have you been focusing on lately on your farm?
I'd say the big thing that I'm focusing on right now is our pruning program on standard density sweets and the semi-dwarf apples. So a lot of our legacy orchards. So we've gotten a good program dialed in on the high density apples, our high density sweet cherries, and I'm really trying to figure out if we can squeeze some more yield out of those processing blocks or the standard sweet cherry blocks that we harvest for fresh by pruning more aggressively. So I think because we do a lot of fresh, we've looked at kind of that aggressive annual pruning that guys who grow fresh crops do. And I think in the processing fruit world, the culture with a lot of growers has been to let some of the pruning go, or to be as conservative with your pruning as possible. But I'm doing some experiments to see, how much more aggressive should we get? How can we manage that cost effectively? Kind of give my guys a limited number of cuts, so like 3, 4, 5, or 6 cuts per tree, but emphasize big cuts and renewal pruning, and try to get through that more efficiently.
Yeah, pruning's interesting. It's you can get in there and you get the wrong guy that's a little too picky, and you're like, you look back and he's 15 trees behind. You're like, what's this guy doing? And then he's cutting all the little stuff. But you're like, dude, if you would have went down another foot, and there's a huge cut right there that had 8 of those branches on it. There's definitely ways to be more efficient. It's just sometimes you get people that are just perfectionists and they like to have a good looking tree. But
yeah, well, and I think with standard density, we let them fill the space, and we don't think about how much more fruit we can get out of that space. If you invest in those high density orchards, you're always thinking about how do you make as much production as possible per 18-inch rectangle. And I'm trying to figure out how to apply some of that thinking to our legacy blocks as well, and see if we can bump up production on them a little bit.
Do you rely on consultants for scouting or other tools to make informed decisions with what you're doing? Or it's just tough to keep an eye on everything yourself, right?
We rely heavily on scouting to make our decisions week to week.
That's good. You just want to go out there and nobody wants to go out and just spray for fun.
Right.
No, it's not cheap, so.
No, it's not getting cheaper either.
What's your breakdown on acreage? Apples, cherries,
so
fresh, processing?
We're probably, I don't know, more or less a quarter. It's probably a little bit less than a quarter processing apples. We've got, I'd say 40% of our operation is apples. But more and more of that is the dwarfing Honeycrisp apples. And then maybe, I don't know, 20% of our acreage is non-bearing sweet cherries that are commit to fresh, so stuff that we're bringing into production. 20% is processing cherries, and then the last 20% is fresh cherries. Like, they're already commit to fresh blocks. And we've got some dark sweet blocks that we move back and forth between fresh and processing, which, that's one of the reasons we use the whole farm policy, because crop insurers don't like to have one orchard that could go into 2 different markets.
Yeah.
Right.
What do you do with your fresh sweet cherries and stuff? Do you sell them at a market, or do you have a buyer for them?
We actually run a little packing operation, so we sort them, bag or box them, and then distribute them to grocers. So we have kind of a 5-state footprint right around Michigan that we supply with sweet cherries.
Okay.
Sweet. So it's a nice operation. I've seen it. Yeah. It's cool.
Yeah. It works. It's worked well for us. I mean, I think it's definitely riskier than we used to grow mostly tarts and dark sweets, like canners for processing. And I think, some of that terrain on Old Mission, the soil types on Old Mission, our yields are always going to be a little bit lower. So on a commodity basis, we probably don't do as well as we would if we were out in this area or over in Leelanau. Just for, being able to squeeze pounds per acre out. But the sandy soils out there are pretty good for hitting fresh quality. So we sacrifice a little bit in yield, I think, but we've got some benefits in quality, which makes for a good fresh program.
So where do you see the future of the specialty crops here, especially with the cherry industry and how apples are getting pretty tight, because there's a lot of successful years in a row?
Yep. I mean, I think we're like Michigan apple growers. We've got some challenges with markets right now, but I think overall The Michigan apple industry did a good job of making investments in value added, in processing, and attracting new processors to the region during that bull run that we had with apples. So even though the prices aren't what they used to be, I think Michigan has really put itself on the map as an apple producing region. And I think having growers who are innovative, who've done the right things, is going to be useful for us. It's going to help our industry. And I think having the investments at a state level in processing, storage, and packing that have been made in the last decade are going to help us overcome the downturn in that market. So I think there's a good future for the apple industry in Michigan. I think the cherry industry could probably learn from the apple industry. Like we're at the bottom of the cherry cycle, I would say, but we may be coming out of it now. It'll be interesting to see, but I think looking at how to have the industry as a whole navigate some of those challenges is important. It seems like our crops are coming online with cherries at the same time, more and more. And there's a lot of as a grower up in Northwest Michigan, I can see that there's a lot of waste that happens in the processing cherry industry. Like there are orchards that aren't harvested or crop quality declines because the industry doesn't have the bandwidth to shove all of its production through the pipeline all at once. Mm-hmm. So I think we need to be working on either right-sizing our acreage, right-sizing our processing, or figuring out how to manage horticulturally so that we've got a better run of early to late.
Mm-hmm.
It's difficult when, like you're saying, when everything's kind of ready at the same time, and so it's difficult for processors to ask farmers to hold on to a crop, and extend out when we're having issues with SWD and brown rot. It's a tough ask, but there's nothing you can do if you're trying to sell your crop, make your living. You have to somehow manage to make that happen, which can be very difficult and puts people in sticky situations sometimes.
But I think figuring out how to manage whether it's new varieties or PGRs or whatever our industry does, I think we kind of wind up in this industry with this bickering between growers and processors trying to fight over the same slice of pie. But if you could figure out how to lengthen season horticulturally, I think that would be a way of helping to support the industry. We've, on the sweet cherry side of our operation, we've planted a lot of later varieties. So we've got some more weather risk that we're exposed to. But it's the same as our north-south diversification. We're not worried about, if we've got bad brown rot conditions in the first week of July, that'll hit some of our crop, but some of the cherries are still green. So if the tart cherry industry had the same opportunity with earlier varieties and later varieties, I think that could be a big benefit for growers up in this part of the state.
This episode is supported by Wilbur Ellis, delivering what growers need to succeed, from inputs and insights to long-standing partnerships across every acre and every season. So as obviously and a lot of people around in the area, the age of the average farmer is going up, and we're kind of starting to see a lack of youth kind of coming up behind them, because whether or not they just don't see it as profitable, or they grow up here and move away from it. Like you said, maybe they didn't want to pick up a cherry lug, and they said, I don't want to do anything on the farm. I don't want to be there. So what's that look like on Old Mission? Is it kind of similar, or is it easier to kind of pick up some favorable land from other growers that don't have a succession plan for their acreage?
I think, if you look at the number of older growers on Old Mission versus the number of younger growers, we've got a real shortage of younger growers on Old Mission. I think one of the things that we need to face as an industry is it's not like your dad's industry anymore, where we're going to have 15 or 20 growers in the same region, all basically doing the same thing. And able to be successful at it. I think what we're going to see in our industry is either a good amount of consolidation, or if you're that younger grower who's interested in getting into the business, you got to ask yourself, what can you do better than anybody else? I mean, it's not necessarily being the biggest farm out there that's going to work for everybody. If you've got, say you've got those wetter sites or sandier sites where you're farming, if you can figure out how to be the best at managing what look like tough sites to other growers, or figure out some kind of a custom operation, the right choice for a given young grower is going to be different depending on where they are, what they're good at, what they're interested in. But I think you've got to look at your skills and your interests. On our farm, we're terrible at managing machinery. So one of the reasons that we're tipping away from growing processing cherries is we've found that we really struggle to have the internal capacity to keep our mechanical harvesters going as well as we used to. So we're way better labor managers than we are machine managers.
Nice.
But for somebody who gets really geared up about the machine management and wants to spend the winter in the shop making sure that stuff is ready to go on day one of harvest, like, you might be able to do mechanical harvest better than anybody else. I think, another opportunity that we should be looking at in our industry up here. I don't know what it's like out this way, but on Old Mission, we don't do a lot of, you've got custom operators who work for absentee landowners, but we don't have a lot of farmers who hire work done by other farmers. And I don't know if that's true in the specialty crop generally, or if it's just an Old Mission thing. But one of the things that I'm interested in looking at our industry is, okay, so if our farm can figure out how to do 2 or 3 things really well, how do we sell that as a service to other growers? And more importantly, with those things that I don't do well, like mechanical harvest, would it be more efficient for me just to hire somebody who's good at running a shaker crew to come in and shake my orchards when I'm busy running our fresh operation?
Right.
Yeah.
Keeping harvesters up to date or running can be very difficult.
Yep.
And you can spend all winter long working on them and still take it out the field, and the first day something fly apart.
Yep.
So
yeah. But I think it's
I like that you're thinking outside the box with all that stuff, though, because I feel like that's what it's going to take, moving forward is.
Yeah, realize what you're good at,
You
what
gotta
you're not.
adapt.
If you're not
Right.
good at it, maybe
Yeah.
it's just as
not
cheap to pay someone else to do it for you or help you out.
Yeah.
Yep.
Do you guys do any irrigation?
Yeah, we
to
irrigate
manage
pretty much everything.
To manage your crop size and keep the trees healthy?
Yeah, we do a lot of irrigation. So we do we build our own irrigation systems in house, and we've been doing that since the 70s pretty much. Most of our sites are pretty sandy, so the cost benefit on irrigation out on Old Mission is it's a no-brainer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
do you irrigate out the processing stuff too, or just mostly fresh? Okay.
Yeah, we'll irrigate the processing stuff when it's younger. Sometimes when those systems start to get a little bit older and the trees are mature, you kind of question whether it's worthwhile to go in and do annual maintenance on them. But our processing blocks, we irrigate at least up until they're in production, and then our fresh we irrigate, life of the orchard.
You guys do soil tests on your farm?
Yep.
Soil samples? You guys
We
do
do
soil
samples. So we'll pull soil samples on new blocks. I'm trying to do grid sampling every 5 years too, and that's been really helpful because you can really start to dial into. I mean, it's kind of expensive, but the grid sampling really shows you. It helps to tell the story of why some orchards aren't doing as well as others, and it gives you a better handle on which blocks are worth investing in to try to manage a deficiency, and which blocks are kind of going to look better as open fields.
Right. Mm-hmm. So how do you utilize that information that you get from the tests? Do you make adjustments to your fertility program on the ground then?
Yeah, especially for like the potash and phosphorus. If you've got a site that's more depleted, We'll use them with some of our dwarfing apple orchards to decide whether we're going to mound or not. Like if you look at the soil organic matter, the water holding capacity, if you've got a site that looks like it's going to be high vigor, we'll plant those with the graft union exposed. But if we've got a weaker site, we go through and mound everything, and we'll just leave those mounds for the life cycle of the orchard.
Paul said that too, which was interesting when he was on my farm. He pointed it out because we were not paying attention to that. So we're planting, and he goes, "Well, look at this tree. That's." So look at that, and then the next one that's not doing so well, it's complete opposite. And you're like, "Oh, it kind of makes sense." And then it's funny that you pay attention to it. And I mean, it's tough when we're doing double row planter and just slapping them in there pretty quick. So it's like, but like you're saying, we do a little side disking afterward, but something to definitely pay attention to in the future is it does make a difference. That's something you don't think when you're just planting thousands of trees
especially
in a
if you're
day.
doing high density. It's just rapid fire.
Literally, what did we do? I think we did 18,000 trees in a day.
Oh wow,
We were just laying them in there.
apples.
Yeah, they were every 3 feet.
Yep.
So it was as fast as I could tell that the guys were able to keep up with the light when they were putting them in the ground.
Yep.
When they were supposed to plant it, I was just a little bit faster. Then I start seeing them panic. I got to reel it in a little bit.
Yeah.
Is there any piece of equipment, tech, or orchard systems that you believe have made a bigger difference on your farm?
I mean, I think, to that point about the light, like we switched to auto steer on our planting tractor probably 6 or 7 years ago, and that helped a lot. But I would say like the most valuable piece of technology, I don't want to sound like somebody's high school teacher, but the most valuable piece of technology that we've implemented on our farm in the last couple of years was I moved a bunch of stuff to the Google suite, like the Google Office stuff. So Google Sheets and the whatever their word processor thing
Docs.
is. Google Docs, yeah.
Yeah.
So we have, because you can tie the Google Docs to calendar events in Google Calendar. So we had tried a bunch of different management assist softwares on our farm, and we weren't happy with any of them. So I spent a bunch of time 2 winters ago just hacking together a bunch of sheets that were connected to calendars. So we've got like SOPs that people get reminders on. That's helpful, makes management a lot easier. We've got ways for guys to take notes on what's going well and what's not, and to date stamp those so we can keep an eye on where we have pinch points. If I'm short a tractor when I'm trying to do primary scab cover on apples and keep brown rot out of my sweet cherries, I'm not going to remember that in April of the next year if I don't write it down. So we're using Google Docs to keep records on kind of on the fly what's going well, what's not going well, and then to establish those time bounded SOPs. Because I think what's tough about farming is we never really get good at doing anything, because by the time you're done with one project, you move on to the next and you don't pick it back up for another year.
Right.
So documentation is huge, I think. And then we use Google Sheets. I mean, whether you're spraying your whole farm on your own or whether you have a spray team, being able to track material usage and time expenditure down to the block gives you a much better idea of what does my cost per acre actually look like? What does my cost for this particular acre actually look like versus I think in the orchard business, we sometimes make gut decisions about what's performing well and what's not performing well. And until you start really tracking the data in detail, those assumptions can be wrong. I mean, we used to think that Honeycrisps were our best performing apple variety because the bin price was better.
Right.
But we ran the numbers on it like 3 years ago, and we do better as a Jonagold farm than Honeycrisp farm. And I mean, we were doing.
But you
better.
would have never known that if you don't keep good detailed track of everything.
Yep.
That you put inputs.
It's easy to get attracted to the shiny thing, like a nice Honeycrisp bin
Yeah,
with a lot more money.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, or
Interesting.
like I see growers who bulk at the price per ounce of one chemical when the other one's cheaper per pound, when the alternative is cheaper per pound, but it's like, you put more pounds in than you do ounces.
Right.
It's double the rate.
Exactly.
I know. Yes.
The $700 jug scares you, but the
Have that
30-pound bag is
Right.
I'll go with that.
Right, but the 1,000-pound jug.
You're going through
covers
pallets of
50
30-pound
acres.
bags. Yeah. Yep.
And you need a pallet to get that
Yep.
to get the same coverage.
Right.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
Yeah.
how do you think about long-term planning for the future? Are there any varieties of certain crops right now that are doing better that you're like, we definitely have to double down on this and then back off on some others?
I mean, I try to look at what we can manage well with the operation that we have today and what we're going to be able to grow into. So, I'm kind of cooling off on the fresh sweet cherries, and I don't know that's necessarily market as much as it's driven by what are we going to be able to manage well internally. So we're looking at we're actually looking at backfilling some of our processing cherry portfolio because we've gotten out of it. We used to be good at the machine management thing, but I think anytime you take on something new or you're trying to make that choice about do I keep doing this or get out of it, it's the question of like, does this vertical fit within my operation at all? So that's that's kind of what we're kicking around right now. Do we want to do some more tarts or brine? Because we're at a point with those where we have enough acreage left that it would be a pain to get out of it completely. But we've actually gotten less efficient and less skilled at managing those crops as we've shifted attention away from them.
Sure.
So we're kind of, I think, it's a coin toss. We could lean into them and expand acreage of those crops a little bit, or we could taper back. But that's the choice that we're looking at right now. I think planting decisions are tough right now, though.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it also has to do kind of like you talked about the cycle too. It's kind of down now. So if you had some older blocks, now is time. If you wanted to stay in the game, would be to start over and get those planted and take that 5-7 years to grow that tree to a croppable size. The last should have been planted 3-4 years ago. To kind of hopefully catch this upswing when and if it happens.
Exactly. And we're one thing that I'm trying to be smart about as a younger grower is if I take a block out that's not performing well, and it's like a 3-acre block on an 80-acre farm that was dragging behind, just leave that site vacant until I'm ready to do something with another 10 or 15 acres. Like one of the things that we're trying to take advantage of with this down cycle in the industry is to rationalize the size of our blocks. A lot of the farms out on Old Mission, whether they've been under our management for a generation or whether they're new to us, they're really small blocks. So it's just basically trying to rationalize and
so a lot of
some of those blocks, like
jumping around.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So we're trying to minimize the amount of jumping around that we do.
Yeah.
Right. It's easy when you're spraying because you can just spray it all the same, for the same crop. But then you go to harvest and you're like, oh, we do this too with we'll have our organic farm here. Sure, it looks like one big block. There's what we call Amon South is 150 acres or so. But you look at it, all the ages, there's 7 different age blocks in there. Like one used to be a nursery. Right. We had 2 acres worth of extra trees we planted one year. Then some trees are 20 years old and it's like, holy cow. Then you go to harvest and we have to keep all that separate for all the records.
Yep.
It could be a pain because then you're trying to relay that to people who speak a different language and the bus drivers and when to have the harvesters, start here and work that way or work together till they finish this area. And the non-experienced people that don't come back don't understand that. And then you show back up and you're like, whoa, what are you doing in this part of the farm here? Right. So how many tanks did you do? You got to do a little backtracking to keep your records clean. But very interesting. So what does success look like on your farm in the next 5 to 10 years? Where do you want to be?
I think figuring out how to bring the non-bearing blocks. We've planted, I think maybe a way that we're different from a lot of farms in the area is that we've been planting pretty aggressively for the last 8 or 10 years. So bringing all those new orchards online and then having a good idea of where we're going. So really figuring out how to do the fresh sweet thing well. Then I think the tough call for us is what we do with some of the other acreage. So apples work pretty well in our program because they're not a big distraction from fresh cherries, but because we're doing fresh sweet cherries, our processing cherry operation, it can feel, if the markets aren't performing well, it can feel like a distraction to us because you wind up with a lot of talent and a lot of resources tied up running the processing side of the business. So I think just, in the next 5 to 10 years, one of the things that we'll have to do is just make a choice, like whether we're gonna do that and excel in it as a kind of firewalled vertical within the operation, or whether we're gonna wind it down and find somebody to partner with who does well with that.
What you guys donate some apples?
Oh,
Can you
yeah.
tell us about that a little bit?
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
So we had the large crop in 2023, and we had the same apple processor for 30 years, and they pulled out on any commitment to buy apples in that year. So that was kind of a gut punch for us. We were trying to figure out what we would do with the crop, and I went to a Farm Bureau meeting where they talked about food scarcity. So we learned that 1 in 10 kids in Michigan goes hungry from time to time. And I tried to figure out like what we could do to because we grow a lot of Johnny Golds, which can swing into fresh market. I wouldn't want to donate Rhode Island Greenings or Northern Spies as a fresh apple, but our Johnny Golds seemed like they were a good crop for that kind of use. So what we did was we put together a pre-purchase program so people could go online, buy our apples, and then, anybody who grows apples knows that you get about 10 cents on the retail dollar for apples. So we were selling at retail, and then we would donate pound for pound. So we wound up donating, I think, 150,000 pounds of apples that year.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a contribution.
So do you guys still continue to do something on, right?
Yeah. We do it every year.
Yeah.
That first year was definitely a bigger splash. People ask us if we're going to do it every year, so we keep doing it. And we open up the farm for a little apple you pick in the fall now. So it's a little community event.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I noticed those little things make a huge difference to the community. Even like one day at our market, we offered like free wagon rides, and I don't remember what else it was, something else free. And that was like
packed.
Yeah. People parking all over. You couldn't even see the end of where people parking. It was awesome. So like, and they, the feedback was awesome about that. So,
and then they buy stuff at the market.
Right. They still, the plan is to just get them on your
Just
farm,
gotta get 'em there.
whatever.
Yeah.
It's education. It's everything. So
yeah. Well, and I think in our industry, we, as farmers, we worry about farmland going out of production into houses. And that's kind of the worry that's top of mind for farmers. But one of the things that we try to do on our farm, because we do farm adjacent to a lot of neighbors, is really emphasize being good neighbors, figure out how we can give back, or if people want us to communicate with them, if we're spraying or whatever. Just in Northwest Michigan especially, I think we're going to have more and more pressure on what we're doing as farm operations going forward. And if you can stay ahead of that and have those relationships with the community and basically be a good guy in everybody's mind instead of being the bad guy or the mystery, it'll save a lot of us a lot of aggravation,
a lot of headache,
a lot of headaches.
How has anybody read more about the labels and setbacks or earning points, things you have to do for certain chemicals? No? Does anybody know anything I'm talking about?
I don't even know what you're talking about.
In order to spray certain blocks like close to where endangered species, it's the Endangered Species Act, right?
There's nothing up here though. I
thought there was one, but
There
anyways,
is, but I don't think we really have much. Don't.
I love that there was endangered weeds.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, you can't spray this anymore because there's an endangered weed. I'm like, God.
Yeah. No, but I read that there's like a point system, and you have to do so many things to earn a spray if you're by this. Like, I don't know exactly.
I feel
what
like
they
that would
are,
fall
but-
under
haven't
like
heard
your
anything
drift
about that.
management plan, right? Because
No,
if you're,
it's like runoff and all that stuff is what they're worried about. Like
That's
putting
like the new
silt
thing.
fencing in and like doing
Yeah.
things like that earn you points. So then you can spray this product type thing. And I don't know if that's still coming or if they backed off a little bit, but it was interesting to hear about that stuff coming down the pipeline. So I'm just happy that
the label is the law. though.
Zyram's going to be back.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
Oh, really?
nice.
they were targeting it pretty bad, trying to pull the label completely, but now they just made it.
What about
I-
Captain?
Cap 10's still good.
If you can get it.
Is that
Is it in short
breaking
supply?
news on the podcast that Zyram is back for next year?
Wait, I have yet to see it.
Oh, now we're spreading rumors.
Yeah,
Oh, even better.
This is just them telling me. We've had it on order forever, and it's still not here. But they stopped making it because the EPA, right, was going to pull the label.
Mm-hmm.
So now the way I understand it is it's still going to be labeled, but they're going to change how much you can use and when.
Any other spray information? Any shortages that anybody should know about that
Good
you're seeing so
question.
far? Anything?
You know, I'm going down to Sparta
Next
Tuesday,
podcast, they'll
Wednesday,
have more
and I'll
information.
hear a lot more.
That'll be good to know as people kind of look to do
Start
some
to plan for
pre-buys.
next
This
year, yeah.
I know this time of year I really check out like
What's
mentally. I just no. I really the opposite. The opposite. I have to like come back to earth and like what just happened this year and take some time and get back to who Steve
Reflection.
Merchant is because it's a crazy.
I know it. You got the
crazy
market.
Yeah,
Working here at Wilbur.
4 kids, football
4
coach.
kids.
Yeah,
Basketball's starting
basketball
back up.
injuries. I know.
Thankfully, you made it here today.
I know.
Where can listeners find you if you want to be found on social media? Anything you want to promote?
Yeah, so we've actually got a little farm market you pick out on Old Mission. So most of our social media is on the Third Coast Fruit. We've got a Facebook page and Instagram. I don't know what other social media the kids are using these days,
Right.
but whatever it is, we're probably out there.
Yeah.
Right. We'll get those
Yeah.
links to all those in the description of the video, so anybody listening can look at
Check
that.
it out. Yeah.
Check it out. So thanks for joining us.
sure
We
thing.
appreciate you braving the weather, like we said, to come out here. It's quite the day.
Big trek.
Yeah, it's a good thing we locked you in a week ago so that you couldn't back out.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. If nobody has anything else, I think this is a
Auto wrap.
good spot.
wrap.
Good spot.
Cool.
Episode 14.
Thank you.
Specialty Crapcast.
Yep.
Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, sure thing.
Thanks again to Wilbur Ellis for supporting this episode. With more than 100 years of experience, they're helping growers move forward with custom solutions, expert advice, and trusted products.